YouTube channels.
I can concentrate. Does anything be outlined?
I don't know if you saw the email. Sean's probably not gonna tune in until around 6.
All soccer season here is around the next. He's not I think it's a lot for his legs, but oh, he loves it. I think it's such a good group of kids. You know, shit also well.
Okay, are we ready to start? Should I text me?
That's the bigger roster.
45 seconds. Or not do
But it is 5:30, so I find getting started. You're right.
Recording in progress.
And that's on. All right. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. This is City Council, Monday, August 3rd, 2026. Roll call, please.
Darren Miller, here. Eric Sarine. Eric Sarine. Jen Mazias. Jen Mazias. Molly Sigler. Molly Sigler. Becca Robleski.
Here.
John Benson.
Here.
Jared Trimble.
Here.
Laura present,
I guess we do.
and that's a majority?
Yeah.
Quorum is met.
Great, excellent. I don't know, I had bad math going on. All right, next we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, our next item is approval of minutes from council meeting July 13th and a special council meeting on July 21st. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Darren and second by Jared. Are there any questions, comments, or edits to those minutes? I had something, but I think it was more a grammatical thing, so I'll just follow up with Tony on that. Anyway, it's a big thing, I'm an editor. Other than that, I don't see any comments, so all in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is approval of monthly expenditures.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Darren, second by Becca. Roll call vote, please.
Jared Trumbo,
Yes.
John Benson,
Yes.
Becca Robleski,
Yes.
Darren Miller. Yes.
Okay. Just letting me know that you don't enter. If you cannot try. Okay. Our next item that passes, our next item is public comment. Is anyone here tonight who would like to give public comment? everyone here for public comment, please step forward and sign in. Let us know your name and address. And speak right into the microphone, and that goes for council as well. Please make sure you're speaking right directly into your microphone.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Christy Yench. I'm at 410 Fifth Avenue East in Washburn here, and I'm coming to you tonight with a citizen's request. I spent 2 days last week attending the data center presentation from Bayfield County and the Wisconsin Extension program. And based on the information that I learned there, I am asking a couple of things. One is that next month, I'd like to see on the agenda a request, an item regarding a pause or a moratorium on the development of any data center here in the city limits. And if you think that is an overreach, you might consider that we are all, most of us, I think, are living in little data centers, and we're in one right now. We have a lot of data. You have a lot of data. And I think we need to really stop and consider what impact a larger entity would have on our area. We're already, Bayfield County is already losing land being bought up for a number of different things, but I think we want to be very mindful of what we deal with when we are using our data. And there are already 3 counties in Wisconsin that have put a moratorium on it. You might want to consider supporting Bayfield County as it is grappling with this same issue. The other thing I would ask is that you include data center construction as you embark on the comp plan review that is on your list for things to do this year. Thank you.
Thanks, Christy. Anyone else here for public comment?
Hi, my name is Grace Stolen. I reside here in the city of Washburn at 118.5 West Bayfield Street. I read through the council packet and just wanted to express my support for enhanced pedestrian crossing at 2nd Avenue West. It's very difficult to cross Bayfield Street in most places in town, as I'm sure most folks here are aware. That intersection definitely is more heavily trafficked as that area of the city is becoming more activated with Lost Apostle, Station North doing a lot more activities there. It'd be really great to have some enhanced safety. Along with that, there is no sidewalk on 2nd Avenue West, South 2nd Avenue West. And with the parking lot for Lost Apostle there, it's creating more potential for vehicle pedestrian conflicts, difficult to, for motorists to see or for pedestrians to see motorists. So I do just want to encourage considering potential other improvements along on that block as well with that pedestrian crossing lights. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Grace. Anyone else here for public comment? Sure.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olusola Ajayi. I am the administrator for Northern Lights Health Care Center. And I have come first to acknowledge that we are a county-owned facility. We take pride in what we do. I have a workforce of close to 90 employees, and if I add contracted staff, we will be over 100 employees and staff that work at the facility. We were hit by Legionella detect positive result in May 26th. And as part of the remediation plan, as a healthcare facility, we had no choice but to run our taps like you cannot even imagine. Our bills have gone up over 500%. And as a non-profit entity, we need all the help we can get from the city of Washburn. We are a resource for the residents of Bayfield County, and I thought it was important for me to come in to address council members today, to ask for your kind consideration, whether it's a form of rebates, whether it is outright forgiveness, whatever it is you can offer to us. We need this, and please consider it as a request for a lifeline. The margin in my industry is extremely thin, and when you have a hit like Legionella, with my sensors down for the month of June and July, I am looking at tens of thousands of dollars in losses. And we need all the help we can get from everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone online, Tony, that you can see who looks interested in public comment?
Nobody's coming off mute.
Very good. I think that concludes public comment. So we will go ahead and move on to mayoral announcements, proclamations, and appointments. I have no proclamations this month. I don't know if I even have any announcements other than it's the Bayfield County Fair starting on Thursday, so everybody comes to the fair. I guess something that's more pertinent is one of our agenda items, so I don't know if I need to make an announcement, but I'll make a small announcement about the fact that the Personnel Committee and Council have come to a decision, and we will be voting, Council will be voting on a contract later for a new city administrator. So that is very exciting, and stay tuned for the details on that as we get closer to that item. And then I do have one recommendation for an appointment, and that is in the packet on tab 1. I haven't had an applicant for the Harbor Commission, I think in over a year, and all of a sudden we had 3. And so I spoke with Nick Sininsky, who's the Harbor Commission chairperson, and we came to the conclusion that Aaron Jarity would be the best person to appoint to the Harbor Commission. And so that is the recommendation that I'm making, and you have her application in the packet. Does anyone care to make a motion on that?
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second.
Motion by Aaron, second by Don. Any questions, comments, or discussion?
Is Erin here tonight?
I don't believe she is, no. So Erin, in addition to being full-time at Ashland Fire, does serve on our fire department as well, and lives here in town, so.
Yeah, she's really great.
And Jared making motions on our Harbor Commission, so with that, I will ask for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll let Aaron know, and Tammy will, about her appointment. Next, we have presentation and discussion of the 2025 financial statements audit. Timothy Ocampo? From Clearfield Auditing and Consulting, CPAs, is our presenter.
Good
Welcome.
evening.
Thank you for, where do you have to come from?
I came from Ashland School District today.
Oh, excellent, so not too far. Very
I'm
good.
in the middle of school district auditing season.
Okay.
Thank you for having me, Honorable Mayor and Council. I know it's been a bit of a long road to get here. When I present my audits, my name is Timothy Appelpelto. I'm with Clearfield Auditing and Consulting. And I bought the practice of Rob Biller at Eagle Auditing and Accounting Services. When I present my audits, I like to go over the audit process, talk about the required audit communication. And then at the end, I like to see if you have any questions or comments or concerns that you have, and I'll try to answer those to the best of my ability. The audit process involves planning, testing, and reporting. Planning is basically obtaining an understanding of the city's operations and internal controls, and that is used to develop an audit approach. Basically, the timing, nature, and extent of the procedures that are performed. Once that is completed, we go through the testing phase of the audit. That's basically substantiating the numbers and the disclosures in the city's financial statements. Some of those procedures include analytic procedures, which are basically developing an expectation of a balance or a result in the financial statements, and then comparing that to what actually happened. And then there's substantive testing, which is pulling detail and looking at it, going through it for reasonableness. The last part of our audit process is reporting, and I'm happy to report that you had an unmodified opinion on your financial statements. That being said, you should have received a required audit communication. I'm required to communicate certain matters to those charged with governance. The first thing I like to address is my responsibilities. My responsibility is to obtain reasonable assurance about material misstatements in the city's financial statements. That basically means I got enough evidence to get to good enough. I'm not going to test every transaction, but I'm not going to skim the surface and give limited assurance. So that's basically what reasonable assurance means. I got to good enough. The next issue I'd like to address is ethical requirements. And basically I and my team members, I have contracted with at least one other team member that we have met ethical requirements related to independence. Independence is basically that I don't have any conflict of interest with regards to the procedures I perform or the opinions that I give on the financial statements. The next is we were not aware of any significant unusual transactions during the year, and we encountered no significant difficulties in performing audit procedures. There were a couple of unadjusted corrections and some audit adjustments as a part of the audit. Those entries are at the back of the report. If you'd like to discuss those, I would be glad to go through those. Some of those were property tax revenue recognition, and then some interest accruals on the governmental fund side, or actually on the proprietary fund side. We did get a management rep letter, which is basically the city's management attesting to they gave us everything. It's basically that management is taking responsibility for the financial statements. I'm happy to report there are no disagreements with regards to accounting matters or the work that was performed. And there were no consultations with other accountants for second opinions regarding any auditing or accounting matters. With that, if you have any questions regarding the audit process or me as what brings me to the tippy top of Wisconsin, or any other issues, I haven't gone fishing yet. I have done some hunting last fall. That's about
Excellent. So do you live up north now?
I do.
Okay.
I live in Mellon, so I'm south of Ashland County, basically. Serving, if you trying to build a business and practice up here.
Well, we've never had an audit presented to council since I've been mayor at least,
Mhm.
and that's been 6 years. So I thought, I had heard at a conference that it's a good idea to have the auditor come and do a presentation to council so that we have some idea of what that means. So
Right.
this is helpful, thank you. I'm not looking at a copy of the actual report in front of me.
Mhm.
I just have the letter, the memo. Is there something that that you have to show us at all as far as details that you think are important, or any overview in addition to your official summary that you'd like to share, or?
Give me 5 seconds.
Sure.
I might come up with something.
I
I'll walk out the door and I'll think of something that will,
understand.
I know.
I know that one thing that I hear frequently at league conferences
Mhm.
from other municipalities is that everybody gets dinged on not having enough people to separate the work out the way that it
Right.
really should be. And I think that sort of is included in one of the items.
Mhm.
But I don't know that there's much we can do about it.
This is true. I've in the 12 months I've been up here working on my calendar year in municipalities. And I'm actually coming up against this as well because I've already got plenty of salt and pepper in my hair and my beard, on the top of my head and my beard. And my predecessor was getting to the point where he's like, yeah, I'm not interested in going, it's kind of serendipitous that I come along last year and I bought a house, my wife and I bought a house in Mellon and wanted to develop a practice in northern Wisconsin. It's kind of a great time to hand off, but that being said, there's a lot of challenges in northern Wisconsin related to succession planning, how do you solve the problem of finding someone that is qualified to do treasurer, clerk work. And I know you've had your challenges with finding a city administrator to come in and be able to perform those duties. It is a real challenge to get people to come back, if they lived up here, to come back, or to come up to such a pleasant place to live. And even going to Asheville Bay in the winter, that's a blessing.
Right, lots of amenities, but it is very rural.
Right.
Yeah.
To address another concern that some of my municipalities have expressed. Some of the duties, the solutions for the duties, some of those involve identifying what kind of duties could be transitioned to, like, finance committees, for example. You're processing transactions or you're looking at reports. I've had finance committees that will go through and they'll have a check signing ability and they'll sign off on disbursements, for example, or they'll look at payroll. How do you split the review process? How do you make sure that you limit self-review? And I know one of the things that the city of Washburn has done is contract out some of those more complex accounting and finance issues that you have to deal with to a third party. And again, that comes into a succession challenge because those folks want to retire. My understanding is that your contractor is
Are
retiring.
you talking about for the ambulance billing?
For the year end, for the Form
Oh,
C
Right, right.
and the PSC reports,
Right,
for
okay.
example. And then it's trying to find a successor contractor, or you're putting things out to bid on BidNet. So that's kind of, does that answer your question or address some of the issues that you're coming up with?
Yeah, no, this is good. Does anyone else have any questions for Ruthie?
Don't have any questions, just grateful to have another set of eyes on the books.
Very good, much appreciated.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. Moving on, we'll move to the discussion and action on flashing beacon for pedestrian crossing on Highway 13. That's tab 3 of your packet. And I do have that additional letter I mentioned that I'm going to pass around to everyone, keep one for myself. And so for those of you online, I'm sorry I don't have this in the packet yet, but it will be added later. It is another letter asking for the council to proceed with putting in a flashing beacon at the crossing, one of the crossings that were proposed by the letter that is in the packet already. So with this, let's see. I don't recall, Tony, do you recall what the conversation has been to date with this type of a crossing in our process of discussion and planning with?
When I mentioned this to Kenny, Chief Johnson, he, I guess, brought up the point that I think we were having discussions of this for phase 1 on 3rd Avenue. I don't roughly remember that about a flashing beacon there. I know that the DOT suggestion was the curb bump outs, which we put in multiple locations, and we had a discussion with council on where curb bump outs would go, which would then lessen the distance that a pedestrian needs to cross. And I'm sure that when phase 2 comes along, they're already planning for some of these as well along the way. I'm not sure if 2nd Avenue was one. I don't think Central is, because that's the turn lane for the marina. But I do remember discussions of that. But I don't think there is one there because we needed a wider berth for the county highway trucks and to get the boats down there. And for any businesses using the toll rock. I think 3rd Avenue, down where you turn to Jackie's Field and ball fields, I believe we were going to put one there. But I can't remember betting on this side of Central Avenue.
Do you mean a bump out?
A bump out, yes. But to the point of the letters and the questions, I mean, in the summertime, we do get a lot of traffic on the highway, and if we now have this attraction south of the highway, and most of our residents live north of the highway, it might be a good idea to have this type of, because it's not a stop sign, you gotta push a button to turn a flashing light on, so we don't mess that up within the county. But I'm not sure if, as someone said in public comment about Second Avenue with no sidewalks being on the south end of that, I don't know if that's the better location. Maybe First Avenue would be the better location?
Does First Avenue have sidewalks?
No, but it doesn't have the parking
lot, yeah, okay.
like we have. There's
On both
parking on
sides.
the side, but not the pull-in parking like
Yeah,
there's now.
Second Ave has both sides of parking here.
I've got a question. Are there any restrictions on DOT's part on the number of rapid flashing beacons we could have in, or other types of traffic calming strategies we might be able to implement?
Yes, there are restrictions. I don't know what they are. I would say you couldn't have one on First and Second Avenue. I'm certain of that. I don't know if there could be one here on Second and then maybe another one down in Memorial Park or something like that. But you can't have them 2 blocks in a row.
There'll be some distance between them that's required.
Yes, there may be able to have 2, but they can't be like every block.
And I know that we had some discussion on speed limits, on reducing the speed limit further east, where it goes up to 35 maybe, keeping that at 25. And have we made a request yet for a speed study?
I don't believe that's been done yet. And I think the question was more so of having them reduce speed outside of town,
Oh,
because it's 45 and then,
I think it was.
and then a block later it goes to 35. Well, it drops to 45 and then to 35 right away. And because we're putting a crossing down on 8th Avenue by Aurora Place, that we had talked about having it slowing down sooner from coming into town.
At Superior Avenue.
Yeah.
In that general area.
Or even before the curve, honestly.
So, it sounds like that there's a process that we would need to go through to request, a flashing beacon.
Yeah, this would require an application.
And do we know if the time frame for that decision falls within the time frame for our process that we're already in?
I've not checked with the DOT about this yet. But, I mean, I think we're still in the time frame where they could put this in the planning.
Some of these emails are from the DOT.
Yeah, no, the process is laid out, I just don't know about a timeline.
Sure.
But now is the best time to start the process. Before-
Or Washburn.
Better than last, yeah.
Better than next one.
Like, are they gonna ask us, so in the, design and installation section, it says that the following location criteria should be met prior to approval, and there's a couple, like, quantitative items in there. Are they gonna come back and say, like, it says a minimum volume of 20 or more pedestrians during a single hour of an average day should be met? You get other counts who are young, elderly, disabled, and then seasonal day volumes, just because right now is our, busier season, with pedestrians. I'm just curious if they would come back and ask us to, is there some way we would measure this? And
Well,
in
it
the
does-
winter, we're not gonna see those traffic volumes.
It does say seasonal day volumes can be used in place of average day volumes if the crossing is in a known tourist area, so
Right, but that would mean if we need to measure that,
it'd be now.
we'd have to do it now.
Mhm.
Um,
All of this would have to happen immediately. I think the question is, do we want to proceed with the application? And if so, then we would have to do those things ahead of time. Before it would be approved by the DOT. I think we can approve it now. We have someone in our audience who might have some input on this. If anyone would care to open the floor to the public.
Motion to open the floor.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Darren. All in favor?
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? Welcome, Ruth. And
Are you gonna make your statement? I'm Ruth Holstrom and this is Flora Holstrom and we're both Washburn residents and we're here just to indicate our support for having some pedestrian flashing beacons. Of course, I have a young child, I have an 11-year-old as well, and we do a lot of biking and walking around town, and especially with Bayfield Street. Okay, go ahead.
We would like walk lights where I can we can press the button because I have buttons. And so I can cross the road safely.
And that about sums it up. So, yeah, we definitely support the idea of instrumental locations, of course, to have areas where you could press a light, cross the road, because especially in the summer, it gets pretty busy. So, thank
is
you.
that the flashing beacon? Are you acting that out?
She's attempting, I think.
Oh, that's when it says wait.
Yeah, that helps you know when to cross.
Wait.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Ankle.
Perfect, good.
Ready now.
Yes.
Boy.
All right.
So, looking at, I like the idea of flashing lights, but I'm just wondering if second is
That's hot.
the best spot. I mean,
Circled on that. It's circled on number 2.
It's circled on it first,
Our first.
but on this one, it's on second.
They're both circled, yeah, 2 options, I think.
And I'm just throwing this out there, but why, I mean, in my mind, the best, safest location would be at the intersection of Washington. Just because kids are bombing down Washington Avenue at 50 after they come down the hill on the top. But, I mean, that's more, I guess, I'm curious on why that's probably the most logical place there. And it's on a corner, so it might draw more attention to people that are heading north.
We've already done that part of the road. It would have to be a retroactive installation, which would be apparently a lot harder.
This whole intersection, like a half a block was completed
Yeah.
already.
And I realize that, but I'm just wondering how much more difficult they're.
Well, and I'm trying to figure out whether the amount of traffic that is turning and crossing at the same intersection might be a bad combination of having to then follow a stop sign, when a car is trying to turn that way. It could get very confusing and congested. Does it have to be at an intersection? I can't recall.
It does not have to be an
So it could be halfway up the block.
There has to be a certain, I think it's not at an intersection, it has to be a certain amount of space from an intersection, but it does not have to be at an intersection.
I almost think it would be better not in an intersection.
Like the ones in Ashland and Buncross Highway 2 are, almost none of them are at intersections.
Just because it's not as much, space to get bogged up with the traffic that is at the intersection.
Could we do a bump out? Not at an intersection?
No, not a bump out, but a flashing beacon.
Well, I understood that, but I mean,
We call it a pedestrian island.
I-
What's the specific terminology?
I would recommend not a bump out, not at the intersection because of plowing.
yeah.
The
It's going to
distance
get hit.
that one would get complicated. But a beacon without a bump out would be fine, I think, as long as it's a place that makes sense. I mean, you know, this whole area right here, like these 3 blocks are probably the busiest, and right around the dangerous corner where you can't see the cars coming. So wherever we can slow that traffic down, and now we're limited to where we haven't done the construction.
I think this idea is a great start. I do think we need to go quite a bit further, but that's a future conversation.
Sure, the question is, do we want to move ahead with an application, details to be determined, I guess.
I just think regardless, it is a good idea and we should have one. I just think we're gonna have to find more details. It's probably gonna cost us as a city money. I don't think we can get it fully covered.
That's a good question. Who would be responsible for finding out, taking the numbers of people that are crossing the regular basis?
The DOT.
DOT, I think would do that.
They would have somebody that collect that data specifically.
I don't, but yeah. So,
And I think that based on his emails that I see, they might have already determined that we have enough crossings. As he said, he's fine with either of these locations, the DOT representative. So they might have already made that determination. I don't know, we don't seem to have a ton of info.
The place that I've seen the most people trying to run across the street is on the block between First and Second Avenue to the pharmacy, to the hardware store. You know, that's probably the highest volume of pedestrian traffic crossing on a regular basis. This is a little bit less on this block because Coco's only open Thursday to Sunday. And not as many people park on this side of the road for lots of possible because there's more parking on the other side of the road.
yeah, all day long I watch people trying to cross that First Avenue right there. Kids and people with buggies and
And people
kids
don't
are
wanna,
halfway out in the street and nobody's stopping for
and
them.
people don't wanna go to the end of the block to the crosswalk. They're trying to cross in the middle there.
Even the ones at the crosswalk can not
Okay.
get by.
Another thing to think about too is if there is a certain prescribed distance between these flashing light beacons, if we do have any future thoughts of adding more pedestrian safety devices, maybe further down would be better to allow space that we can impact one or two more in the downtown.
Well, especially now that we have more place down there, and there may be more foot traffic across the highway, even down that far.
To the sidewalk.
I mean, I think, I know the street's already done, but realistically, this end of, you know, the west end of town would really use that. Because you have kids coming down from the schools,
Yes,
you know, at lunchtime or after school. The busiest area for kids is, you know, by the grocery
Sure,
store.
right. Well, and that's where the bump out went in response to that. We did not try to get a flashing beacon at that point. I don't recall exactly how the decision went, but it was to put the bump outs in for that location.
But in the
Yeah.
middle of the street there, I do think, cause you know, the club is just right down the street there, at least it would be a place if, you know, after school, the kids kind of have a route they take to the club. Maybe some of them are gonna venture on to the new facilities on Omaha Street, so that like general area makes sense.
I guess,
First Avenue.
I guess the point is
Or
that,
in the middle of the club.
I mean, the request is for the bike park, so you would think that kids would be riding their bikes. Do you then want them to ride on the sidewalk half a block before they can cross?
that also is
Rather than use the crosswalk on the road?
a really good point. I mean, I ride my bike pretty much every day when I'm in town. I'm on the street, not on the sidewalk. And I was taught never to ride your bike on the sidewalk, right? You're supposed to be part of traffic. So if we are anticipating people using your bicycle, it seems like an intersection would be a better spot.
Well, I think what I'd like to hear is maybe a motion to proceed with further research. But don't know if we have a deadline for this, but we can certainly come back with more details, and then at the September meeting, we could approve an application if we need to do that. Do we need to approve an application once we have details? Because we can't approve an application when it's not filled in yet.
Yeah, so I think that what would need to be approved by council is the location. Sounding to me like we need to get clarification on a couple things is how close can they be to one another? Would the city be eligible for more than one? And can they be located not at intersections?
And how much are they?
And how much will they cost? Both for the new section and if there were some on the previously completed areas. And then once those questions are answered, we can have that a decision on, and then I think the last thing is a timeline is when they would need to know.
Yeah.
And then get that decision on the location of it.
And if the council does approve the support of this, regardless of where it goes, I mean, then I can start discussing with the DOT and Jessica before they get too far in their planning.
This says historically 1,200 feet has been a rule of thumb for minimum using. Because too many together can be confusing or distracting to drivers.
And that makes sense. So could I ask for a motion from someone to approve the concept and ask for some further details to come forward?
I'll make a motion to approve the concept and continue towards an application.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jared, second by Don. Any questions, comments, or discussion? I would say, any comments you have as you think about this more and maybe review it some more, feel free to ship them to Tony, because he'll be starting the discussion with the DOT, and that'll just help us, have people's thoughts ahead of time. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our next item is discussion and action on expenditure of PERC's designated fund for Memorial Park entrance sign. That is tab 4 of your packet. And we have 2 representatives here tonight from the historical preservation.
Did you want to close the floor?
Oh, yeah, we're trying to do that. Thank you.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Jared to close the floor. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. You two are here for a specific item, so we don't need to open the floor, so. If we do have questions, as we proceed, we will let you know. Thank you very much. Unless, someone wants, we had the memo in the packet and the information that was very helpful. A question that I have is for Max, do we need to have a design approved before we have this process proceed?
We can reallocate budgeted funds before a design is approved.
Okay.
That is allowed. It would then need a further approval of the specific design. But the way that I read this is the request is for the reallocation of these funds, not for specific approval of any final item.
Okay, so a design will need to be approved at some point by council as the historic preservation council or by.
The costs are primarily for the pillars right now, which are currently in place.
Sure, but I just want to understand the process so that as we move forward.
At the top of my head, I don't recall the specific spending limit, but there are certain things that can be spent without coming back to council if they are budgeted. So that's the first step, because this isn't currently budgeted at all. So the first step is to get it budgeted, and then there are certain amounts that can be spent without specific design approval.
Okay, so I guess maybe it's unrelated then, my question about design, just as a side issue that will go along with the process. What is the process to have something like this done?
I would say that for the sign itself, is that the question? Or for the renovation of the pillars? Or is it all one big thing?
I guess it seems like it's kind of all one big thing. The renovation of the pillars is the first step. And then the sign would be the final. And I don't know if there's an approval, necessary for the design of the sign.
So that's where it wouldn't necessarily require council approval for this. But I think it's been our practice to get council approval on these types of designs and things. It's similar to the welcome Washburn sign or the decorative metal signs on the street posts. I would say that those probably didn't require council approval because of the amount that they cost. And if they were already budgeted for it, but those did come back to council to approve the design. So I would say that that's the practice, even though it may not be required.
Okay. So then my question for you, Karen, and Matt is, are you looking at recreating, like in the picture, the sign to look like that, with that metal bar and the light, and what is the light for? If so.
Thank you for the opportunity to give you more information about what our plan is as we go forward, pending council approval. What we have presented to date to the Parks Committee, and as Tony indicated, is to first preserve the pillars. And that is the estimate that was in your packet, and that is only an estimate. We would go out for bid because we wanted to at least have a figure to present to you so that we, the Heritage Association and the council and the Parks Committee, had some indication of how big this red box is. So what the final bids might be, I can't anticipate at this point in time. We do not have a complete design, and design meaning the bracket and then the sign, because until the pillars are restored, we can't really figure out yet what the bracket is going to be. And Matt is here because he's my technical person in terms of why that is. And Matt, if you want to just mention what our dilemma is with the pillars.
Yep. Okay, so I was there and I met with the structural engineer, and there's kind of a couple of different scenarios. One is they have to pull the cap off to see what's going on inside with the actual support. So that arch is actually 3 pieces, 2 and then one that comes across. So once they take that off, then the engineer will be able to tell us what can be done. And one scenario would be just putting the original arch back on. If it can support it, then it would be new metal and then the hanging sign. Or a third option would be, depending on the loading and things like that, we would put new metal, new arch, and then the sign would be on top of it. So there's a lot of factors involved right now. But I did hear the blue light was to notify the police to come back to the station. That's what I heard. Yes.
Is there a plan to bring the blue light back?
Not necessarily.
Okay, good, yes.
Not necessarily. And as the Parks Committee minutes indicate, the Heritage Association has indicated that we would be willing to look at $6,800 that we would contribute to the effort. We have had experience with the GoFundMe account when we needed to raise funds for the Edmund Fitzgerald Memorial that is down next to Harbor Table. And that was successful. I can't stand here before you this evening saying that we can guarantee that another GoFundMe would be successful, but people have begun to talk to me and others on the association about their interest in maybe contributing some funds. So we would have to see what that would be. We recognize that the Parks Committee he has a number of things that they need their designated funds for. And so whatever the council feels is appropriate, we would be willing to work towards that next step. Once the pillars are restored, then would bring you a design in terms of what the bracket would look like and the sign. Because we're the Heritage Association, we would want to restore the sign to as close to the original as possible, because I think it's an iconic sign and it would be interesting. Hopefully you've had a chance to read the history that Tony provided in your packet. That was, I found fascinating in terms of the history of our 100-year-old park.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have a motion they would like to make?
I have a question on this, May.
Sure, go ahead.
I know when we were initially discussing the phase 2 Bayfield Street reconstruction project, there was some discussions and concerns with these pillars and the potential turn lane going into Memorial Park and the turn radius for campers as well as the height for campers going down to Memorial Park. I don't specifically recall where that discussion ended up, but I know there was concern of these pillars and all of that. I don't know if we've looked into that more with this proposal.
So the DOT, in the DOT design, their work is outside of the pillars, so they don't want to touch them because they're historic. I believe what they were going to remove the turn lane, but I think they've decided after further discussions with other DOT folks that they're leaving it as is. So there will be a turn lane for vehicles to go in, as they could still take a wider turn if it's another vehicle.
So that would still, I know there's a question of whether that turn lane would work with the pillars in place.
Yes.
And it's determined it could.
Yes. And then the other part, again, with larger vehicles, I mean, I would say that if the current frame remains, the current frame structure, then we should put the sign above it. Because RVs are much, they're much taller than they used to be.
Yep, our goal would be to raise the
Yeah,
sign
or
so that
raise-
it could
yep,
still hang.
Yep, either raise it or put it above it, yeah.
Yep, and some of the feedback we got, people that camp and that have the bigger RVs know to come into a different way. So, because of that turn radius, that's some of the feedback we got when we started looking into this.
I was gonna ask if there's a way, if that does become an issue with the turning radius and that, is there a way to have, I know this would be different, but have both pillars on one side with a sign at an angle, and you could just put the sign between the pillars and not have to go up? You know, it would be a different design, but it would be preserving the pillars and recreating the sign at a slightly different angle. And
I feel like that would change this estimate quite a bit.
Yeah,
so moving the pillars is a whole different thing.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and what the engineer said, he just needs to see that cap off so he could look down in there. They did the best they could with the equipment they had, weren't able to determine that, so.
If I made one more comment, the engineer felt that the pillars as they currently stand are in good condition. Other than the fact that there is water leaking and you can see it on the outside of those pillars. So the tuck pointing is important, but they're plumb and they're not gonna fall over. So to consider moving them, I think would be, as Don said, really expensive and would not be preserving it in terms of what we've had.
Sure, and it sounds like there's alternate ways for those vehicles to get into the
Yes,
park, so.
yes, and we certainly would.
If I can add two more things. Again, along with phase 2, having this start and going through is an opportunistic time to do that because it'll be closed, the highway will be closed in front of it next year, it won't be used as an entrance. So it'll be easy to work on. And again, I mean, the Parks Committee is recommending $10,000 from the Parks Designated Fund for this. Again, I think this is a perfect example of why we have this park designated fund, and this is a perfect, I guess, project to use those funds for.
Okay, so with that, is there a motion on the $10,000 recommendation from the Parks Committee?
Also move for the 10,000.
I would second that.
Okay, motion by Darren, second by Don. Any further questions?
I guess I got a quick question.
Jared, go ahead.
Say we don't come up with the other money, the GoFundMe. My calculations, we still need $10,000 to get the pillars done, correct?
Well, we would have 16.8,
And you need 27 too.
correct?
Well, it could be less than that if it does come in less.
Yeah.
Hopefully not more, because I think that is a little on the high end.
Sure. Just wondering if we give 10,000 to, but we can't get it all done. Yeah.
This is just a redesignation of budgeted funds, it's not expending these funds at all. If we don't get enough money to get the project done, this money isn't wasted. It's
It
just,
stays in the
it's
budget.
just redesignating where these funds are budgeted so that they can be used,
Council
Right.
could designate more funding for the project
Okay.
from these funds.
Just wanna make sure we have.
And if I may, there are a couple of other organizations in the community that are we're discussing it with them also. So it might not be totally making it up with a GoFundMe account. I mean, again, I can't stand here and say I can guarantee anything,
Right.
but we would we have had some experience in being successful, and hopefully we can be successful again.
I think that's a great project.
We'd work hard at it.
Very good. Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much for your efforts.
And before you move along, just, there was another item
Yes,
for the Parks Fund.
the 15,000.
Is it my,
Oh, yeah, okay, so that's for this,
It would be a separate.
separate?
it's not on the,
No, it's not, yes.
so can we take action on this?
It says Parks Funds, and I guess I forgot to add that next slide when I did the agenda.
Yes.
I think that, is that urgent for this month?
They could start doing, reaching contractors or start discussions of,
So I'd say that council could approve it and we should put it on for ratification for next meeting as well, just to be certain.
Did we not already approve funds for the hillside project?
no. So, well, yes and no. It was supposed to be paid for with a bar wing. And because we still don't really know how much reimbursements we're getting from the DNR, and if we have any. And we've already started spending on phase 2. So Jen and the Parks Committee just wanted to move forward with the designated fund. Because we don't know how much of the borrowing money is
Do we even
available
need to take
anymore.
action on that? It was approved out of the borrowing
Yes, because this is changing the
source.
source. It's not in the fund currently to spend it. So this would have to transfer money from one fund to another, which requires council approval.
But we might not need to transfer it if we get the money back.
The money doesn't transfer from one account to another, it's just spent out of the designated fund.
Yeah, but it hasn't
Moving it
been,
from the borrowing.
and the designated fund has to have, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it has to have some purpose designated for what it's going to be used for in order for it to be used.
Council needs to
Yeah.
approve the spending of it.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
So that's what the difference is here.
okay, Gary?
I guess, it kind of goes back to when we first did the lending portion of it and the plan for that money. I guess and I think that was part of we had a lot of kickback from the community area up there. And I'm curious on what parts of that.
So this is just for the
Or would this be-
landscaping, which I think is non-controversial. It's not for.
Correct, I guess that's what, I don't remember seeing like a
This is
final,
from the follow-up conversations that we were having with the community up there.
okay,
And then trees were cut down by the tennis courts because they were going to disrupt the tennis courts. And this is just bring some landscaping, some tree work back to that park.
and that was just what I was wondering is to what detail, I mean, 15,000, you know, I just was curious of how far the landscape, I mean, is this the parking? Is it?
No, this would be the
Just-
landscaping, so the cost of paying somebody to come in and plant trees and the cost of trees and other stuff.
So there, yeah, it was to get quotes from Earth Sense Garden Center and Latitudes Landscaping and for this $15,000.
And I do believe that these plans, these landscaping plans had already been considered and approved for these improvements. It's just waiting on the funding. I don't know the answer, Tony, maybe you might know the answer on this, is if we use other funds from the parks designated fund for these, can the city still be reimbursed from the phase one borrowing for these costs? Or do they have to be, so can we reimburse ourselves for them, or does that have to be a direct expenditure from that?
Any money that we're getting back from, these grant reimbursements, we can still use for the phase two project, because we have expenses for those coming in as well.
So this, if we do get this reimbursement for what we've been waiting on for,
It's not gonna sit there, it'll get spent.
it will be used elsewhere to offset other costs.
Which will be approved at a future date. So, does anyone care, did we get a motion on this yet? No, we haven't, have we? To spend, to allow the expenditure of $15,000 out of the parks designated fund for the landscaping improvements at Hillside Park contingent upon,
So any bid, any actual expenditure still has to be approved. This is just authorizing up to 15,000 to be used for that purpose. The contract would still need to be approved.
Also move.
okay,
1 second.
motion by Darren, second by Jaren. To that effect. Any questions, comments, or discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Alright,
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is discussion and action on amending the water and sewer credit policy. This is tab 5 on your packet.
Should I get copies of this for council?
Sure. Could I see that? And that's one I haven't seen it. And this, I can do this one and you want to do that.
I'll let you take that.
Alright, so this is in relation to one of the public comments, not directly, but that's what triggered this conversation. Yes, Northern Lights had a Legionnaire's disease identification, so the. Okay, we still have a quorum, just temporarily unavailable. Okay, the county health department issued an order for flushing their water lines to get rid of it. That's common practice for this type of bacteria, discovering this type of bacteria. They had made a request for for a credit for their water and sewer usage. You heard what he said, they have had to use a lot because of this. So I looked into whether the city could reimburse them or waive any of these charges. My opinion is that the city cannot under the way that everything is currently. They're pretty strict about utilities providing equal rates to all users, so there's no discrimination. You can't allow public entities to pay a lesser rate than private entities or anything else like that. But you can have certain policies, which we have in place for giving credits to users for certain excess usage. And then further into that, it's broken down between the water utility and the sewer utility. Water utility is regulated by the PSC in Wisconsin, sewer utility is not, but it still has to be, it can't be discriminatory in its billing. So the PSC specifically says the only way that a water utility can give a credit or a reduction in billing is if there is a leak that was unknown and that leak essentially could be verified and that user then could get a credit for the amount of leaked water for that quarter in which it was discovered. PSC specifically says you can't get credits for any other purpose. So my opinion here, they ask for a credit on both the water and the sewer. My opinion is there's really no possible way for the city to give credit for the water side. It's unfortunate, but I don't think there's any way to do it. Second, for the sewer side, you see our credit policy kind of is combined with the water and the sewer. Essentially if there is a leak, you get a credit for each of them because we do our metering on the water intake side. So you get that credit on both. There are ways for users to have separate meters for water usage that doesn't go into our sewer system. I don't know if there are any that actually have it. I know there's discussions with the school about like water in the football field and things like that, about putting it up so that they would get charged for the water usage but not the sewer usage on those. That is one way around it. But as far as our current policy, there's no there currently isn't, unless they had, I'll back up here. So for this one, they did the flushing and we verified that they were flushing this to an outside outlet. It is not going into the sewer system. So they could have installed another meter onto that outside outlet and they wouldn't have been charged for sewer usage for that. That is one way we already have it in the policy. But here, I guess what we're looking at is, all right, if we can verify that it was discharged to a source that went outside of the sewer, can we amend or does the council want to amend the sewer credit policy to give a credit for billing in these types of situations? My recommendation is if we do, we make it specific for, it's a credit for instances where a public health agency gives a specific written order or directive to a user to flush for continued period, however it is. And that user can verify that this flushing was done outside of the sewer system. That I think we could then give a credit to the user. What the credit would then be is their water usage is still paid, they still get charged based on their water usage. But their sewer usage bill would be reduced to their average sewer billing for the previous, I don't remember if it's quarter or average over the.
Yeah, most recent quarter.
The most recent quarter, yes. And the statutes specifically say that any credit policy can only apply to the prior quarter. Here in the leaks and everything is only to the prior quarter. So this flushing started a little bit before during the last billing cycle, but the majority of what they're doing now would, if we did make this change to the policy, they'd be able to get a credit for this third quarter of their sewer usage.
So it could not be retroactive.
Correct. That's not allowed to make it retroactive, but since they're still in this quarter that they're using it in, we can make this change, and then when that bill comes, it wouldn't be a retroactive change, they would still have the ability to get that credit. Their water usage is up like 500% from this flushing. And I do think it's going to be done here shortly. It's not even still into the next quarter.
Lulu told me 2 weeks probably.
Yeah.
They're testing the water again to see where it is, but he is assuming another 2 weeks.
So it seems like a small effort that we could make to cover a situation like this that is pretty drastic and not something of their choosing.
And I've never heard of this happening. It's never happened since I've been here. There is a possibility it's not only at public buildings. I think there is a possibility that it could happen anywhere,
Someone's home.
in anyone's home. And this policy change would apply regardless of if it's private residence, business, a public place like this, like the nursing home there.
That's a really good point. We do have a pretty substantial water infrastructure project coming up, maybe causing disruptions to existing water lines. They're already pretty old. Now the bacteria just lives in the building in your pipes. You shake that stuff loose, yeah, you gotta rinse out. So, I think we should do something about this situation in preparation for any potential future issues.
My understanding of what they believe caused this is it's an older facility with larger water lines, and they're redoing their parking lot. So they're having the trapper or whatever is going through, tapping down the asphalt, and that disrupted the water lines. And the reason about another 2 weeks is they're doing another section of the parking lot, so they're continuing to do this work as this is going on.
Do we have any other tools available to us other than water or sewer utility credits? Are there any other novel legal strategies we could think of to help provide some relief, because this is a pretty extreme situation?
Not from the city or from the utility side of things. I don't know if there are some grants available through the state or through any other public health agency that provides funding to help in these types of situations. But from the city, well, the city can do whatever, give grants or other things, but the city doesn't have any money to do that. But from the utility side, there is nothing else we can do. This is the most that we can do.
And this would be helpful,
Yes.
for sure.
I don't know what the dollar amounts are. Do you have a ballpark on that?
I don't know.
Yeah. But it would be helpful. And it really, I think the logic behind it is, even if it's required by an order for them to flush, they're still using the city's water. So the city is still paying to provide that water. But since they have confirmed that they're flushing this outside of the sewer system, the city's not actually incurring any expenses on the sewer side. So waiving these costs on the sewer side is no detriment to the city.
So at least it's a small effort that we can make in good faith in having the nursing home here in our city. I think that has benefits for us as well as challenges, but it seems like it's the right thing to do. Does anyone care to make a motion?
Can I just ask one more? So in the credit policy, it says a customer may only receive 1 credit per property every 20 years. That would, if this was changed or updated to reflect, these public health orders, et cetera, would that be effective for?
My recommendation is that 20-year provision is only for leaks, not for this public health agency order for flushing is kind of a separate credit. It's not in this, everything else here for the, so no, that 20-year, once every 20 years would not apply here, is my recommendation.
So we could add 4 leaks to make it more clear?
Right.
Yes. I would clarify that those things are just for the leak, and it's like a separate,
Like a whole separate
a
section.
whole separate section for an ordered flushing.
So would we need to come back and approve a draft policy change, or
We can just approve it and I can draft the language and have it in place, yes. But we do have time, if council wants to see it again. I did confirm with Tony, I think our next council meeting is 2 days before the the next quarter billing, so we would have time to get it back to see the final language and get it approved and still be effective for them to get this credit on their next bill.
If there were any amendments proposed at that point, 2 days.
We can
ago.
put it in together, that's no problem. Yes. So I recommend, I guess if this is something we want, make a motion to approve it and I'll put it together and we can have it on the next council meeting's agenda just to make sure it's everything that everyone wants.
Excellent. Motion to approve the amended water and sewer credit policy.
Second.
Motion by Don, second by Darren. Any other questions, comments, discussion?
I'll just point out, since the question came up, so within their last quarter bill, and they were only flushing for a week before, compared to their last bill was $2,000 more.
Between sewer and water.
Yes. So this one with the volume that they're running now is,
Substantial.
yes.
And water is more than sewer, I'm assuming,
No.
or no? Okay.
Yeah, sewer is more.
Well, good, as well. Since it's not giving us any extra cost. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is discussion and action on ordinance 26-002, amending the duties of certain city officials. This is tab 6 of your packet. And we have draft amendments.
So this one just changes to the city's ordinances to undo the linking of the city administrator and city clerk position. All the job duties and everything that we described approved previously, those aren't actually in the ordinances. So the only thing that needed to change was that linking of the administrator and clerk position.
I have one question for you.
Yes.
In the zoning administrator, it says the mayor shall appoint subject to confirmation by the county council a zoning administrator, period, no. But we've included the zoning administrator duties in the administrator position description, or position, description.
Yes.
So does that still need to happen separately?
As we're doing next, the contract specifically identifies him as being hired as city administrator and zoning
So
administrator.
that would be the approval,
Correct.
okay, got it.
I took out this language that should have been taken out for the city administrator shall supervise the activities of the zoning administrator, because since they're the same position, they can't supervise themselves.
Yeah, okay, very good.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion by Jared,
Second.
second by Becca. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item is going into closed session to discuss the employment agreement for the city administrator position. We're going to make a motion to go into closed session, including Max and Tony.
I will so move.
Second.
Motion by Darren, second by Jared. Do we need a roll call vote? or no?
The second was done.
Oh, sorry, Don, yeah, Don, thank you.
Give him credit where credit's due.
Roll call vote, Darren Miller,
Yes.
Becca Robleski,
Here.
Don Benson,
Aye.
Jerry Trumbo.
Here.
All in favor, we go into closed session at 6:53.
Yes.
Yes.
I meant yes.
We had 2 ears, an eye.
Hold on, I'm gonna insert the battery.
Recording stopped.
And I need to close this. Thank you for anybody that's watching live.
Goodbye.
And Mayor, this is Sean Murphy, I'm on live.
Oh.
Sorry.